Did you know that humans built massive skyscraper-sized projects under the sea? These projects built underneath the sea are just as tall as the second largest skyscraper in the world, which is approximately 680 meters tall. From tall oil platforms to underwater railway tunnels, mega projects underwater are one of the most mind-blowing construction projects in history. Today, we are going to look at these pieces of architecture located under the sea and uncover how they were built. First, let's look at underwater tunnels. European countries started attempting to build underwater tunnels in the early 19th century. But the first few attempts failed because the ground was too soft and the tunnels they built started flooding. Later on, new technologies were developed which made the work easier. With the help of the tunneling shield technology, the 400-meter-long Thames Tunnel was finally completed in 1843. Since then, construction of underwater tunnels have only gotten better, and with the invention of the tunnel boring machine, companies could make the projects on a bigger scale. Today, the Channel Tunnel has the longest underwater section of any tunnel in the world. The length of the tunnel is 50.46 kilometers, out of which 37.9 kilometers is under the sea. This underwater railway tunnel connects Britain to France, and its construction costed a whopping 9 billion euros in 1994, which in today's date is equal to approximately 22 billion euros. Now, let's see why and how this tunnel was built. You see, discussions about building the tunnel under the English Channel began long before it was actually built. Because of the severe weather and turbulent waters, crossing the strait by boat had always been a horrible experience. So, when the technology was well developed, both the UK and France agreed to start drilling the tunnel from their ends. To start building the tunnel, experts had to carefully examine the geology of the bottom of the English Channel. It was determined that the lower chalk layer, made up of chalk marl, would be the easiest to bore through. The digging of the Channel Tunnel began simultaneously from the British and the French coasts in 1988, with the finished tunnel meeting in the middle. In December 1993, the first test run was completed through the entire Channel Tunnel. After additional fine-tuning, the Channel Tunnel officially opened on May 6, 1994. However, the longest subsea tunnel by overall length is the 53.8-kilometer-long Seikan Tunnel, located in Japan. Despite its massive length, only 23.3 kilometers of the tunnel is located under the seabed, which is approximately 60% of the Channel Tunnel's underwater length. The tunnel was built in 1954 after a horrific accident in the Tsugaru Strait. Back then, 5 ferries, including the Toyo Maru, sank in the Tsugaru Strait during a typhoon, sadly killing 1,430 passengers. After the incident, ferry sides were no longer considered being safe, so the authorities decided to start building a rail tunnel that would pass under the Tsugaru Strait. Construction of the tunnel started in September 1971, and in 1983, Japanese Prime Minister Yasuhiro Nakasone pressed a switch that set off a blast that completed the pilot tunnel. 5 years later, work on the main tunnel was completed by blasting the seabed with the help of explosives. The project costed $7 billion and has been marked as one of the spectacular underwater projects to this day. Massive underwater tunnels are only one example of the types of mega projects built underwater. Building large oil platforms deep into the ocean is also a challenge. According to research, the global demand for oil is projected to reach to 102 million barrels per day in 2023. This would mean that oil companies would constantly seek for new oil reserves to manage the demand. Most of the oil used for consumption is found under the ocean floor, and to extract it, giant oil rigs are being built. The first submerged oil wells were drilled back in 1891, and companies are investing heavily in new technology since then to make bigger and better oil rigs. The first significant oil rig of such kind was constructed in the Gulf of Mexico back in 1977. The structure is 386 meters tall and was built at a startling cost of $100 million. Since then, larger and larger oil rigs have been built. Nowadays, these platforms extend 3,000 meters beneath the surface of the ocean. But how do you construct such a massive structure underwater? Many years ago, oil rigs were stationary and were extremely difficult to transport. However, modern oil rigs are far more mobile and can be easily moved from one location to another. Actually, oil rigs are constructed in fabrication yards on land and then they are towed out to sea to the desired destination. The oil rig is then anchored down to the sea bottom or, alternatively, is placed above concrete or steel legs which are directly anchored down. These methods are only used when the oil well is not too deep. Sometimes the oil wells are considerably farther down in the water. For instance, oil wells which are located around 1,000 meters under the surface of the water have to be drilled using a different technique, as building steel towers and attaching them to the ocean floor at these depths are not practical. For deep oil wells, engineers employ floating oil rigs to enable drilling. Using advanced technologies, the oil rigs stay right above the oil wells and are connected to the wells using anchors and lengthy cables. One such oil rig, named Stones, is situated in the Walker Ridge area of the Gulf of Mexico. With the ability to operate 2.9 kilometers under the sea, Stones can extract oil from reservoirs as deep as 8,705 meters in the ocean. Have you ever seen these mega projects in real life? Let us know in the comments section. Also, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We will see you in the next video. Till then, bye!